friends, hello and welcome back. I'm going to have a lovely day. So we're talking a little Toronto Maple Leafs, a little Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner, really the latest scapegoat for Toronto Maple Leafs fans. You know, sometimes for a while as a coach, and what was it? What was a post coach? It was coach for a little bit. I know it started out referees, then it was coach, and now it is Mitch Marner. Honestly, though, I think this is something, the vast majority of the NHL is behind. I think a lot of, people kind of seen this years ago with the Maple Leafs where they was just too top heavy and they couldn't spread the wealth around. And as much as you'd love to have Marner, Matthews, Nylander, if you can somehow do that, and maybe you can, but you can't have Tavares, of course, as well. If you can do that, then sure. But the whole point of the reason most teams can't do that and that they don't win championships and go deep into playoffs is because they don't have defense and net minding then. And they need to have, and if they do, again, obviously you can still have a couple solid players. Morgan Riley's a solid player, but you have to have depth around a position. You need more than one stud on defense. Well, you don't really need more than one stud, but you need more than one above average player on defense. You need some solid players in the bottom six. And that's just something the Toronto Maple Leafs have been lacking just due to, not having the cap space. But I think when you look at it, personally, the way I've looked at it at least is saying, hey, think about, the teams that have won Stanley Cups. You need a winger that can, carry a line, essentially. You need a forward that can essentially carry a line. You need a center that's above average. You need a good defense. You need a top defenseman kind of guy that can move the puck around, play some solid, good defense, a really good two-way defenseman. But you really need a good average plus top four defense. And then depending on how good that defense is, you can weigh in on how good your goaltending needs to be, where you can go with a little bit average to slightly below average if you're playing, really good defense in front of them. Not to say anything about Boston's net miners, but Boston's always a good example. Even out of Vegas, where they can somehow, it doesn't really matter who they put in. It seems like they flourish pretty well back there for the most part. Obviously, you're really good net miners playing better than the average ones for Vegas. But when you look at teams in the past, Colorado, who was their example here? Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon. If you want to throw in Kadri, you can as your plus center there as far as being a good two-way guy. I think it's something too you could say, plus center, plus winger, or you throw in that really good two-way player, two-way winger if it's not a center. But you look at that situation, you look at Vegas with the very good two-way winger, Mark Stone. You got Vegas, Mark Stone. They have two really good defensive players, and then the net minding, and then the center Jack Eichel. Colorado, we already brought up Colorado, Tampa Bay, the years there. You had Patrick, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, and you had that defense that was nasty. And they had, a really good goaltender. So we're going to see what we can do here for Toronto. Toronto, we're going to try to, I hear a lot of talk. They need some guys that can move the puck up. Let's look at defense for Toronto. First of all, let's look at Mitch Marner's trade value. It's a lot. As expected, it's a lot to open up $10 million in the books. The question is, who's got that kind of cap space? Really, it doesn't matter because we're going to be taking some players back from the Florida. You guys do. I don't know. Florida might be overpaying some players. Verhaeghe's making $4 bills. See, you talk about the combination of Montour and Ekblad, right? If you were to bring those in, that's $10 million. That's going to put you right back up against the cap. But that is, you would get more than that for Marner. And Toronto would be good with the cap space. There's no question in my mind Florida would take that. You talk about two guys that instantly change your defense. I think if you get rid of Marner, you got to get some solid, I don't think they can make it happen, where they have to get some solid, you want to get a depth guy on offense as well. I think that's just as important here. And I don't know if they're going to be able to make that happen with Florida's players. It's a playmaker. Bennett's a two-way. Bennett's a two-way forward. Yeah, Bennett's a two-way forward. Bennett's a two-way forward. That might work. No, it ain't gonna work out for $4 million. Lundell's two-way, right? We could throw on Lundell, bolster up the bottom six. We are losing Marner. We got to have somebody kind of through. You're not going to replace Marner's skill, of course. But you got to bring somebody in that can potentially do something there. But I mean, you say Lundell, Ekblad, Montour, and that being for Marner. We're gonna want Florida. Do you have any? Florida's sell in the future. I mean, they've been a good team. Why not sell in the future? I mean, now all of a sudden we're talking first Lundell, Ekblad, Montour. Is that enough? I'm worried about the Ekblad thing. I think here. You're getting two really good defensemen of a team that knows how to win championships. For Mitch Marner, you're throwing in Lundell. You're going to get that first round draft pick. We'll try to flip that first round draft pick. The thing is, we'll have no cap space if you're Toronto. But we're going to get greedy. Is no chance. Florida's going to do this. But we're going to try to retain some salary on this, man. I'm going to try that. We're going to try to retain 2.75. We're going to propose that trade. Trade rejected. The salary is what's the problem. Okay. So we did that just to kind of see what Florida was thinking here. Florida is thinking they would make this trade. Now, if you're Toronto, is that the trade? We're going to come back. We're going to come back real quickly. We don't want to miss anything, cheaper out there. You're definitely not going to find that in Los Angeles. Because you could go Faber. Now, this is something, again, would they ever do this over in Minnesota? But you can go Faber and Brodin. Is he 1 year left on his contract? How much has he got left here? He's got to be 1 year, right? No, he's got 2, so he doesn't need a contract yet. You bring in Faber, Brodin. Now, all of a sudden, we go back to the forwards. We see what Minnesota has to offer. Ooh, Marco Rossi. Eriksson Ek would be a solid one. Eriksson Ek would give you a two-way forward. And again, that's kind of what you want if you're Toronto, is you want to get that guy that's a good, again, another center. And he's a good two-way player, a guy that adds to the defense. I mean, if you're adding to the defense, you're really adding to the defense here. And you still are, then you're really leaning on Tavares to play a little better than what he's been of late. But, that's going to happen until his contract ends and he can add some more depth there. That's what's scary to me. The problem was Toronto shot themselves in the foot when they signed Tavares because he wanted to be there and he didn't take any sort of pay cut. It's not Marner's fault he didn't take a pay cut. Marner's been stellar. Marner's the kind of guy I think you can put on a line by himself and he'll do all right. It's the fact that Tavares is getting older and that contract's kind of a burden to them until it's over with, unfortunately. And that's just the father of time that's going to happen. Tavares, obviously, an excellent player in his time. Now, we're going to get Eriksson Ek, Brodin, and Faber for Mitch Marner. I mean, you're getting an elite young defenseman. You're going to get another defenseman. You're going to Eriksson Ek, who's on your team for the next 6 years, who's a great two-way player. You're changing the dynamic, the culture of this team entirely. How long's Brodin around? 5 more years until he's 35. That's a concern. You want to go? I mean, still, you want to get some good years out of him. You are still in win now mode. Let's see what happens. They took it. We should have added more on. Let's go back. Eriksson Ek, Brodin, Faber for Mitch Marner. That seems like a lot. If I was the Minnesota Wild, would we be taking that trade? Now we look at Marner, Matthews. Tavares is not going on a first line. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. We're going to put you... See, now here's the question now. Do you move Eriksson Ek down here and try this out because of his two-way prowess? You hate to do it because of, you want to keep the guy around if you can. See, the problem is, what's Max Domi doing down here, too? Max Domi's not a two-way guy. Can we move Yarner's down there? Yeah, we can. We'll move you here. Max Domi just doesn't fit with anybody. That's the first problem. I don't know what it is, but with Max Domi, I feel like wherever he goes, they just quit playing defense. We're going to try that. How's the penalty kill looking? We got to make sure Eriksson Ek's on that. He definitely is. That's good. The power play, Faber, Riley, Nylander, Eriksson Ek, Matthews, who we're missing. We're missing the one they call Jean Tavares. Tavares needs to be on that first unit. Yeah, change the current line. Power play 2. I figured he was here. And who can we put there instead? Eriksson Ek. Not the hottest second line, but that's okay. The penalty kill should be set up. The goaltenders, we're sticking with Samsonov. We've seen some bright spots in Samsonov. I think if we play better defense in front of him, we'll be all right. Now, here's what we're going to look at. The big improvement. Brodin, Faber, brand new first line. Liljegren, Riley, second unit. Brody, McCabe, third line. The defense is a defense in Toronto. Now the question is this team still, and this is where we had to, be careful. And we could have really tried to add another player. And I think Toronto, really, they still can. I mean, what are we looking at here, Toronto? We have cap space now. How much cap space do we have? Where they want to leave enough cap space where they can still pick up some bottom 6 guys. I mean, that's important. They got 2 million in cap space. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see what we got walking around. I mean, you got Johnny Tays. I'm adding him. Why not? I mean, in this case, that's what we're going to do. In real life, they might get somebody else. But again, you add some depth to that defense. We'll see what he's thinking. We have 2.5, so that's not going to work if we go any more than that. How's the cap roster looking? 49 to 50. We'll go ahead and offer that money to Jonathan Tays real quick before we sim up this season, because that's part of this too, right? We're opening up some cap space. We picked up 3 players, 3 really good players. We also opened up a couple million in cap space, which is going to be important for Toronto here. Or again, you need that. You have to accept draft for. You need that to be able to build, bottom 6. I think it's ever so important. Like that became difficult with Tampa Bay when they had to start paying some of their stud players even more. It's so important. It goes so underlooked. It's like an offensive line in football. The bottom 6 has to be solid. It needs to be a bottom 6 that can go out there and grind out goals, put up points. Doesn't need to be stellar, but it needs to be solid. Oh, we do have to send somebody down. Because without that, if your top line gets shut down in the playoffs, they find a way to slow you guys down. You're looking for someone that... Who did I send down? That one's supposed to be sent down. You're looking for... Oh, okay. You're looking for, what would you say, like the 5th time. Guys that can potentially grind across the goal or 2 for you. And it's so important. That's the first place my mind goes. I remember, Tampa being like that with Sorelli, Cernak and them guys. They was really good. There was a really good line there where you was like, oh, we got a break, but it's like these guys can produce against their bottom D pair, and that's what you needed. They can produce and play some defense. But anyway, let's see what we can do with this Toronto Maple Leafs team. We're gonna sim the season out. Toronto, 4 fresh faces. Well, first of all, they're gonna make playoffs. That's important because once you make playoffs, you look at that core and say, okay, this team looks a lot more built for playoffs, because that's the thing with the Leafs. Of course, you can be as top-heavy offensively as you want, just like in any sport. You want to be top-heavy offensively, that's great, but when the playoffs come around, the offense is still working or tending to. When the playoffs come around, all of a sudden, the flaws of that defense, they got, again, nothing against the Leafs. The forwards, they got a stud. But, you look at football, it reminds me of, Drew Brees and the Saints, how good that offense was putting up 38 points a season. Like, oh, you win 10 games, but you think you're going to give up 38 and score 38 and give up 35? You ain't going anywhere. Baseball, same story, where really even defense period makes a difference. You think of like the Angels when they was stacked top to bottom, never had pitching, never went anywhere. Toronto gonna make playoffs. That was what was important. 47 to 27, just losing out to the Panthers there points wise. So they would have over 100 points. Definitely a solid season. Gonna face them Florida Panthers, a team that they was gonna pluck a lot of players away from. Still a tough draw for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it was always going to be a tough draw. It was never going to be an easy. That's the problem. That also the Leafs, they're in such a they're in the gauntlet of that division of late. It was the Metro for so many years, and now it's just been the Atlantic just been plowing players over with how good that division's been. So they got 3.68 goals for per game, still scoring at a stellar rate. The goals against is 3.27, still not the best. Not the best, but the power play is great. Penalty kill is good. I would imagine it could be worse, I guess, right? We'll see what happens here. I'm interested in our offense. I mean, if they put that many points per game, Nylander 99, Tavares 78, Bertuzzi 78, Nyes, Eriksson Ek even gave him 48. The -2 out of Eriksson Ek, a little bit concerning there. The net minding, 3.21 goals against 897 saves. So it might be Samsonov. You might look back and say, you know what? And here's the thing with Toronto: we can only trade Marner, but they can always try to find a way to add another goaltender and move on from Samsonov in the future as well, if that's the way they want to go. Here we go. That was game 1 in Florida. Toronto, Florida. Toronto's going to win game number 1. They're going to lose game number 2. A heartbreaking loss in overtime. Heading back home, though, you just got to win your home games. Toronto's going to be out of the first round, and Toronto and Florida are going back and forth. Series tied 2 apiece. Looks like a series that is probably going to go to a game 7. Toronto has to win this game at home, though. They're down 3-2 now in the series. And after 1, it is Florida 1, Toronto nothing. After 2, it is Florida 2, Toronto 1. Ekblad with the goal, Tavares with the goal. All of a sudden, it's looking like, maybe we should have brought Ekblad in on anyway. Weak in your own division. But that's the thing about that trade. That trade is never going to happen because it was inside the division. Wait, hang on. So who we trade with? Yeah, we trade outside the division and the conference. I said there's no way. Yeah, that's the thing. You ain't gonna help your interdivision rivals or trade with them. Usually, Toronto power play. Toronto the chance to take the tie, and it's gonna happen right after the power play. Toronto back to back goes Tavares, Matthews, the core, the heart of this team, putting pucks in the back of the net to win it late. Is that the momentum shift that they needed? Because Florida, they was ready to go. They was ready to advance to round 2. Only a couple minutes left. They killed off that big penalty. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, Toronto puts 2 in the back of the net. Here we go, game 3. Toronto's down 2-0 early. It is in Florida. Erickson, I can't speak. Oliver Ekman-Larsson with the goal. Toronto trying to fight back. It's not going to happen. They're down 3-0. Game 7. Toronto still same story. They can't fight back in them game 7s. Erickson with the goal. The insurance, though. Right when they tried to get back in it, insurance goal, floor to floor, power play, Toronto falling apart here in game 7. Feels their playoff hopes going away. Feels like, oh my goodness, we get rid of Mitch Marner, and look what happened. Still, the Toronto Maple Leafs cannot make it happen. Unfortunate, out in the first round, even with trading away Mitch Marner. Maybe that's not the answer. I mean, honestly, I think the answer is you move on for Tavares, but dang, you got so much cap space. The problem is it's not easy. Nobody's going to take on that contract. Nonetheless, as always, hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.